Thank you. We're live now. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to all the audiences who are joining us online. A very good afternoon to the people, to the participants in the room, and a very warm welcome from TSDSI to this outreach workshop being conducted at 3GPP TSG 101. I hope I'm audible now. Okay, I'll stick to the mic. I'm Bindu Srivastav from the TSDSI Secretariat, and I will be your host for this workshop today. Before we begin the workshop proceedings, I want to make a few hygiene announcements. This workshop is being conducted in hybrid mode. If you're attending the workshop in online mode, please type your questions, or if you want to interact with any of the speakers or audiences, please type your comments in the chat box in the tool. The workshop is being recorded and it will be posted to the event website shortly. And speakers are requested to kindly adhere to their timelines as per the schedule. With this, we now begin with the workshop. We first have the overview session, for which I would like to invite the speakers of the session to the dais. Mr. Suresh Chitturi, Vice Chair of TSDSI. Suresh is currently the Senior Director and Head of Technology Standards at Samsung Research, Bangalore, and also the Vice Chair of TSDSI since 2022. He has over 20 years of experience in the mobile technology industry and is responsible for research and standardization of emerging wireless and IoT technologies in global and regional standardization bodies such as 3GPP, ITU, FIRA, and TSDSI. Thank you, Suresh, for joining us. Puneet Jain, 3GPP TSG Chair. Please join us, Puneet, on the dais. I'm requesting all the speakers to join us on the dais right in the beginning. Puneet is currently the Senior Principal Engineer and Director of Technical Standards in the Next Generation and Standards Group at Intel Corporation. He is head of the Network Standards team and is responsible for driving research and standardization on end-to-end network architecture for mobile broadband technologies such as 5G, beyond 5G, and 6G. Welcome, Puneet. Wanshi Chen, 3GPP TSG RAN Plenary Chair. Wanshi is currently the Senior Director, Technology at Qualcomm. He has over 20 years of experience in telecommunications in leading telecom companies spanning across operator, infra vendor, and chipset vendor companies. Welcome, Wanshi, to the session. Peter Schmidt, 3GPP SA, 3GPP TSG CT Chairs, apologies. Peter has been with Huawei since 2012 and is an active member of CT standardization from the early establishment of 3GPP in 1999. His extensive technical background and knowledge includes core network and radio part of the system, project management, and integration tests. Welcome, Peter, to the session. Mr. N. Ganpati Subramaniam, Chair Bharat 6G Alliance and Chair TSDSI. May I request you to please join us on the dais, Mr. Subramaniam. NGS is currently the Chair Bharat 6G Alliance and also the Chair of TSDSI. He is the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Director of Tata Consultancy Services since February 2017. He is also the Additional Director and Chairman of Tata Elxsi Limited and at Tejas Networks Limited, and an Additional Director of Tata Communications Limited. Welcome, sir. And we are joined online by Dr. Neeraj Mittal, Chair Digital Communications Commission and Secretary Telecom, joining us online from New Delhi. Dr. Neeraj Mittal has been a Tamil Nadu cadre 1992 batch IS officer. He is a BTech in Electrical Engineering from IIT Kanpur, MBA from Cranfield University, UK, and PhD from Ohio State University in Management Information Systems. He started his career as an ISO officer in 1992, holding various administration positions in the fields of land and revenue management, mines and minerals, IT communications, e-governance. During his stint in the Central Deputation, he worked in Department of Telecommunications, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. While working as Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, he was instrumental in rolling out the cash transfer scheme in LPG and the Give It Up campaign. Dr. Mittal has also served as Senior Advisor to the Executive Director in World Bank in Washington, D.C. Welcome, sir. And we now begin with the proceedings of this session. I'll request Suresh to please make the opening remarks. Over to you, Suresh.
Thank you, Bindu, for the very warm welcome. Hello, everybody. Very glad to have you. I know you've seen me speak at various occasions during the week, but I just want to say that I'm extremely happy to have all of you here, not just at this workshop, but also throughout the week, most of you. Now, I think it's very important that we had these meetings, and I'd like to thank TSG chairs for making this happen, and all the organizational partners of TSDSI for allowing us to bring these TSG meetings to India. Uh, I think I've already also said this at a previous occasion that TSG meetings usually don't come to your region very often. It takes you at least 3-4 years because everybody wants to have them, and we're very glad that we're having these meetings in India. I believe last time we had this was in Chennai in 2018, so almost 6 years. After which we are having these meetings here. So again, thanks to everybody involved. I also want to throw some statistics in. This might actually kind of add more color to this event. So we had a total of 1,000 delegates participate in these TSG meetings. So this is a record turnout. We typically have about 450 to 500 delegates face to face. Of course, thanks to the remote participation, but also in face to face alone, we had 650 delegates participate in all the three TSG meetings this week. And we had over 350 remote participants at this TSG meeting. So yeah, India is statistically very high in numbers. Uh, of course, when people think about India, people think about uh, you know billion plus people, and 1.4 billion people to be precise. So it's a lot of human population, but we also contribute proportionally to the growth of the world. But let me give you some more insights into some of the telecommunication statistics in India. So we have over 2.7 million base stations deployed in India today, and this includes from 2G to 3G, 4G, and 5G. And out of that, we have 350,000 base stations in 5G, and we know that 5G deployments have just started. It's been about a year since the spectrum was auctioned, and we expect these numbers to grow further in the coming years. We also have 1.2 billion mobile subscribers in India, and out of that, 650 million subscribers are in the urban regions, and about 510 million subscribers in the rural. So you can see the subscription base is equally spread between the urban and the rural parts of India. And in comparison, we have only 30 million subscribers, wireline subscribers. So you can tell that mobile internet is extremely strong in India, and a lot of people in India, rely on their mobiles to connect to the internet. And in terms of data consumption, average Indian consumes 25 gigabytes of data per month, thanks to our operators here in India that have offered these services at a lower cost, which enables consumers to use data in their daily lives for work and many other aspects. So now aspirations in India are very high in terms of participating in standards, and the numbers that I've told you kind of is a reflection of that. But also, Department of Telecom has been very, very supportive in all the efforts that we do in terms of bringing these meetings here, but also any initiatives that we do in terms of standards, particularly the efforts of TSDSI. So I really want to thank Department of Telecom for being a strong support for us. Now, the purpose of this workshop specifically, the purpose is two things for us. One is for the global community to actually understand the Indian context, and with session this session, I think we will learn some of it in terms of what India is doing in terms of Bharat 6G alliance, but also we will hear some good discussions from the panel, from local participants. But at the same time, we also want the local community who is here and joined us remotely to also equally understand, how 3GPP works. And for that, we have the TSG leaders here, and some panelists who are experts in 3GPP also here. So I hope both these goals will be met by this workshop. And once again, thank you all for coming, and I look forward to a very successful workshop. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suresh, for sharing those numbers and giving a warm welcome to the participants to the workshop. It was my first time of the 3GPP experience, and I'm really impressed and learned a lot. We hope to have more such opportunities. I would now move to the technical part of the workshop. We'll invite the 3GPP TSG chairs to give a brief overview of the 3GPP roadmap. I'll first like to invite Puneet Jain, SA chair, to please give an overview.
Test. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. So, my name is Puneet Jain, and I'm in a TSG SA chair. And something which probably some of you may know about is I have started my career at CDOT in India. And I was involved in the development of mobile switching center in the GSMA phase 1 kind of specifications and deployment of Indian mobile personal communication systems way back in 1998 to 1992. Yeah, don't judge me by numbers on my age, please. I also want to take this opportunity to thank TSDSI and 5GIF for hosting the meeting and have the excellent facilities and providing all the support in running the meetings in efficient and very productive manners. So please join me in giving a round of applause to TSDI for this excellent hosting of the 3GPP meetings. So basically, I'm going to talk about the release 18 and release 19 progress in SA. So TSG SA is responsible for the overall system architecture and system capabilities for 3GPP specifications. So you may be familiar with the chart here, and in the middle, what you see is the various SA working groups. So on the release 18 and release 19 timeline, what you see is basically these are the two main releases ongoing. Obviously, we do a lot of maintenance on the previous releases, but these are the two main releases which are taking most of the current times and resources within SA. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about these. So first on the release 18 timeline. So SA stage 1 has been 100% complete on December of 2021. And since then, we have made a very good progress on stage 2, which was frozen on last plenary meeting, which is June TSG 100 meetings in Taipei. The expectation is basically we will finalize the stage 3 by March 2024 with the ASN freeze happening on and the Open API freeze happening in June of 2024. On the stage 1, basically, it was completed since TSG 94, and in total 25 normative items plus 14 studies has been completed. On the stage 2 front, both as the stage group, which are a main SA2 and an SA6, in total 43 studies was undertaken and has been completed. There is one exception on the Edge app extension for which the work is continuing, but we are confident that it will also finish in time. On the normative work progress, we have around 57 work items, which has been now stage 2 freezed, including the XRM work in SA2. On release 19, basically we have currently 80% complete on stage 1, which is system requirements and the use cases. We already held workshops to identify the overall scope of release 19, but then the discussions are continuing to actually define the release 19 content. So these discussions proceeded quite well at these TSG meetings and is expected to continue with the final release 19 content that would be defined in December TSG 1 or 2 meetings. In terms of a timeline, the stage 2 freeze deadline is on December 2024, with the stage 3 freeze on September 25, and the final Open API and the ASN dot freeze is expected to be in December of 2025. On release 19, there is a considerable work that has happened in SA1. So 14 studies has been completed, and the normative work has proceeded on the 23 work tasks. And many of them are mini bids. On the stage 2 and stage 3, the discussion has started. Like I previously mentioned, some working groups, especially the SS6, which works on an application enablement, they have progressed some of the release 19 work. But on the other, the discussions are ongoing to define the release 19 content. So this is an overall process on how the release 19 content would be defined in SA. After the workshop, there has been a identification of the release 19 core and miscellaneous topics. And for some of the selected topics, a moderated email discussions has happened in the SSI, SA2 working group. We had some discussion at the TSG 101, and the discussions, as I mentioned earlier, will continue until December meeting when the release 19 content will be fully defined. On release 19 candidate topics, what you see is basically this is from the last plenary meeting. There were 17 core topics that were identified and 15 miscellaneous topics. The one which you see highlighted in green, after a long and very tedious discussions, we managed to approve the 4 study items for SA2 on satellite architecture enhancements, XRM enhancements, energy efficiency and energy saving as service criteria, and IMS and NGRCTC enhancements. The items which you see highlighted in cyan or blue color, for these items, the discussions will continue in SA2 meetings with an expectations that agreed or endorsed study items will be brought for an approval at the December plenary. Because of the workload, it was also decided the items which are not highlighted here will not further progress in terms of release 19 discussions. But there may still be an opportunity to bring them as a smaller TI and enhancements for release 19. So these slides, I don't want to go into the details, but I hope they will be made available. It's just basically providing a snapshot of release 19 normative widths progress in SA1. And there are descriptions also about the study items where you can go into more details and look at the progress. So these are the items on which I mentioned earlier on, the 4 items, and then an additional study on multimedia priority services for IMS messaging and SMS services that is also been approved at this plenary. And so the some work which is already happening in the SA 6 on release 19 is also shown in these slides. But again, in the interest of time, I would not have, will be able to go into the details. So this practically concludes my presentation. Thank you very much. And again, thanks a lot for having 3GPP meetings in here in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Puneet, for giving us the timelines and a very brief glimpse into the list of the work items. I now invite Wanshi Chen to give an overview of the RAN roadmap.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wanshi. I'm the TSG RAN Primary Chair. I here give a brief introduction of the roadmap from RAN side. We have quite similar slides compared with Puneet's slides. RAN had this RAN plenary along with the working groups. RAN 1 is the physical layer. RAN 2 is the up layer signaling procedures. RAN 3 is intergenome B. And RAN 4 is the performance requirements. RAN 5 is the testing. So here is how we stand in terms of 5G and 5G advanced in 3GPP. And you can see we already had the 3 releases in what we so-called the first phase of 5G. In release 15, we pretty much focus on EMBB, so-called EMBB involved mobile broadband evolutions, along with some vertical and ULRC work, and this got accelerated in release 16 and 17. About 2 years ago, we start our work on release 18, the first phase of 5G Advanced. Now, during this meeting, I'm very happy to report that we were in RAN 1, the physical layer, we already had the functional freezing of release 18, which is very good according to the original plan. We're also now in the middle of release 19. I'm going to show you the timeline and some initial thoughts. Essentially, now we're in the middle of a second phase of 5G evolution. So here, just give you a high-level picture what do we have for release 18, the first release of 5G Advanced. It can be roughly categorized into 2 categories. One is stressing the end-to-end 5G system foundation, and then the other one is proliferate 5G to virtually all devices and use cases. Here are list a few projects, if you will. Just to name a few, like machine learning, which is a full release study for the air interface, which is very critical projects for to complete understand this completely new domain to 3GPP. Full duplex or duplex evolution is another one. We also spent quite some time on the so-called green base station or network energy sevens. Of course, we also quite some projects try to expand the use cases. XR is one of these. We also have many other aspects, Starlink positioning. So it's quite a rich offering in release 18. So here, just give you a timeline, which Puneet also showed earlier. We have a quite coordinated timeline across different TSGs. As I just said, we just had this meeting, and we have the functional freeze for RAN 1. And then in the next quarter, we expect to have the functional freeze for RAN 2, RAN 3, RAN 4. And then starting from early next year, we'll start release 19, starting from RAN 1 with 3 months staggering for RAN 2, RAN 3, RAN 4, with a duration of 18 months for release 19. Now, in terms of release 19, it's still critical for us to try to advance 5G to fulfill its full promises. Here, just to illustrate what are the possibilities that we should try to further improve Industry 4.0, millimeter wave, green networks, and XR. Just give some examples. But in general, this is still critical for us to address the commercial needs, as also showing in these slides, which we endorsed as the message what I'd like to convey from RAN perspective for its 19 evolution. So essentially, the message is to continue driving 5G commercialization, and also it will serve as a bridge to 6G. In terms of the first objective, we'll try to still have this so-called balanced evolution, where the balance can come from mobile broadband evolution, first for the vertical domain expansion. And also we will have projects to look at immediate needs, and also some projects for long-term needs. And also the evolution will come from both device side and network side. And also now we have a lot of 5G deployments around the world. And Suresh just mentioned some 5G deployment in India and also in many other countries. During the commercial deployment, there will be some critical issues found. So we also have all the tools ready to make sure that we can react and address any critical needs from control deployments. Now, of course, release 19, at some point we're going to have so-called 6G discussion. And we already actually had a little bit discussion in this meeting, but in a way, this release 19 can also serve as bridge to 6G. We have very strong interest in the group to already initiate some study, particular channel modeling for a few projects. One is this new spectrum from 7 to 24 gigahertz. Another one also got a lot of strong interest is this integrated sensing communications. I think this concludes my talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanshi, for giving the overview from a radio access network's point of view. I'll now invite Peter Schmidt to give the core technologies perspective. Can we have Peter's slide?
Okay, so thank you, and thank you for being invited to this workshop. My name is Peter Schmidt, and I'm the current CT chair. And as we have heard in the last couple of slides from Pune and Vanshi, SA and RAN is in the deep planning phase for release 19, now in the second TSG meeting. In CT, we have usually one release back compared to SA into the planning phase. So in CT, the main task this week was release 18. After we had the release 18 stage 2 freeze in the last plenary number 100. So this was the first TSG meeting after the stage 2 freeze in the last plenary. And so I would like to give a short introduction and then the status and some indications about the study items in CT and also a short summary of this. So everything on release 18. So we are going one release back compared to the previous speakers. In CT, one important thing is also that we are not only working on the new releases. One important part is also that companies are also coming and bringing problems they have detected in the fields. If this is the case, then it's a CT point to analyze if these detected issues needs to be solved and in which release. And that's why we have always a number of corrections for our releases. And in this meeting, we had a very low number of corrections for release 17 and earlier. And as said, we usually concentrate on these corrections. We only allow them in early releases if they're really essential and really needs to be solved to avoid any problems in the live network. So the main task in this CT plenary was to discuss the status of release 18 and also discuss the different work items and work tasks we have currently ongoing in CT. So currently we have about 17 release 18 work items. Don't worry, I will not go in details in all of these 17 work items. This might be too detailed and maybe not really of interest of all of you. I just will focus on some issues. Just as a highlight on this release 18 status, we had a huge number of CRs introducing these new features, about 800. Compared to the last plenary, we had about 1,200 enhancements to the release 18. You see it's a little bit different, but the point was here, between now and the last plenary, we had one cycle of meetings, and in the last quarter, we had 2 cycles of meetings. And we have also still getting new specifications, and we are starting also to provide new TSs to the plenary. So coming to these 18 studies in CT, so I just want to highlight to you here that CT is not only working on completing stuff what was provided by SA, we are also checking the network if we need to do some improvements and how to do these improvements to be able to have here a clear, good performed network. One issue, for example, started with in release 16, where IETF started to have a new UDP-based multiplexed secure transport protocol. And in CT, we have analyzed if we should adopt this one, as it was promised that this should bring us some improvements. But at the end, we concluded that the current issue would be that we should not adopt this, as it would change the structure and the protocol stack really drastically, but the effort and the advantages from operators would be very low. That's why we decided not to introduce this new protocol called QUIC. And then we had another study ongoing regarding the network repository function, where a lot of nodes are registering and so on, and we have analyzed if we could improve the storage and the signaling towards and from the NF. Short summary on release 18. As I said, in CT, the main focus is now on release 18. If you look at the topics, what we have done, so we are one meeting after the plenary, after the freeze of stage 2. The freeze of stage 3 is expected in March next year. Looking at this time frame, we are currently on time with all the work items. If you look in detail, we detect that some work items we have not found, not even started, but on some we have made good progress. So the average, we are on time. And as usual, at the start of this exercise on stage 3 work on a new release, we always identify some issues with SA and procedures in SA, and this is then request. There are some clarification requests from SA, but this is business as usual. And this time we tried, the intention is also to have some offline discussion before the next meeting to have less delay in reply LSs on these and reply to the questions on these different issues. If you want to have a detailed view on all these work items and which workers are present and currently under discussion, please have a look on the work plan. I think there was one slide missing. It seems it was slipped over. And yeah, I forgot to mention that there's one new study item which was approved at this plenary cycle. Sorry to jump back on this, but this is also regarding the study on IMS disaster and prevention and restoration enhancements. This is planned to be completed by March next year. If this will go into release 18, it will be open depending on the progress of this study item and the outcome of this study item. And with this, I would like to thank you for listening and wish good success on this workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. With that, we come to the end of the 3GPP roadmaps and now move to the India context. India has just released the Bharat 60 vision, and I'll invite Mr. N.G. Subramaniam to talk about the Bharat 60 Alliance.
Dr. Neeraj Mittal, Secretary, Department of Telecommunications, Government of India. Professor Bhaskar, past chair of TSDSI, Mohan Ram, Director General, and Pamela, former Director General, distinguished delegates, and the TSG chairs on the dais. You all had the opportunity to relax a bit or do some sightseeing or attend this session. So I'm grateful to all of you for being here. And I'll be very brief. Suresh and I felt that this may be a very good opportunity for us to give you an overview of India's plans for 6G and what we are attempting to do in the initiative called Bharat 6G Alliance. Sometime in the year, November 2021, I think, if I'm not mistaken, facilitated by the Government of India, several technology innovation group task forces were formed, primarily to look into 5G advanced and 6G technologies. What does it mean to India? What could be the broad areas of interest for India? And expand on it to see, how we can meaningfully participate and contribute to evolving the 6G technologies and contribute to regional and global standards in the 6G area. In that context, I think, these task forces, about I think 7 or 8 of them were there, and then we produced reports involving several people from the industry and academia. The government took note of all of this, and the Department of Telecommunication and our Prime Minister released Bharat 6G Vision document earlier this year. And as per the implementation plan envisaged in the Bharat 6G Vision document, a Bharat 6G Alliance got into shape. It's about 3 months ago, I think we from the industry, we formed together, and then we said that, look, at present we have about 15 or 16 founding members, and we intend to have more members being part of Bharat 6G Alliance. I'll be brief. The Bharat 6G Alliance single focus is to pretty much realize the Bharat 6G vision, ensuring secured connectivity and high quality living for consumers at large, and which includes both individuals and corporates, not just in India, but for the goodness of the world. Clearly, there are several things that we looked at, and the top 5 or 6 are clearly to understand the business and societal needs of 6G beyond the technology imperatives of coverage, capacity, and experience. How do we make this technology a lot more meaningful to the society, and what is important for the society, and how do we ensure those use cases and those elements are covered right from the architecture and principles as well. And then how do we encourage people from India to contribute to the standards part, work towards building those products and services, emphasize the fact that, look, prototyping of that, creating the manufacturing ecosystems around it, device ecosystem around it, all of that is going to be very crucial. So the 6G initiative itself will have to look at all these aspects, providing a holistic view of what is required to build such a technology that will be more meaningful to the societal needs. It's essentially, the alliance itself is formed as an industry-led initiative, with clearly a focus on involving industry at large, companies that are in India, companies that are located outside in India, academic institutions, and see how we can collaborate and nurture an open collaborative environment with like-minded 6G initiatives across the globe. And there is a governing council, and there are working groups and expert committees and coalitions, which is as a broad three pillars around which we have started to work. Primarily, the working groups itself will, as I said, will look at the societal needs and all the way to the manufacturing ecosystem that needs to come into play so that the rubber really meets the road. There are several interest areas, and I think what you see in this slide are key areas from a both technology perspective and societal needs perspective. We felt that we should stay focused on, and there are two phases of work that we have taken. Some of these aspects will be covered in phase one, which will be from this year, 2023 and 24. And then the phase two will be from 2025, 26 and 28, 26, 20, up to all the way to 28. The intent is to really bring, encourage fundamental research and if necessary, test out by building prototypes, as well as um, collect as much of information, as much of facts as possible, which will ensure that meaningful contributions are made in various standard forums, including the 3GPP and ITU. Predominantly, I should say 3GPP and ITU, right? And these are the interest areas at present, and and we are seeing that, look, many of these interest areas are common for many of you here, as well as the initiatives that we see across the globe. And to commence work on all of this, we have formed the 6 working groups, again led by the industry, spectrum, devices, sensors, and manufacturing ecosystem, the whole technology aspect, then the applications side of it, because as you start to address the societal needs, the vertical applications that's going to be running on the 6G technology is going to be very crucial, and there is much innovation and interdisciplinary nature of the solution needs to evolve. So applications is going to be one of the key areas. Green and sustainability, of course, and then use cases and revenue streams. I think one of the key things that our members felt is that we ought to look at concrete revenue streams using the 6G technology as we move into future, right? And of course, outreach. And we have been the process of reaching out to like-minded initiatives across the globe. And we have just concluded the memorandum of understanding and cooperation with the Next G Alliance. And we will be reaching out shortly to other initiatives, and we hope to build a open, collaborative research and development environment for the overall evolution and benefit of the 6G technologies. I hope it gives you a reasonable overview of the Alliance and what we intend to do. And I look forward to collaborating with each one of you and reaching out to each one of you as we take this initiative forward. Thank you for the opportunity. Bye.
Thank you, NGS, for that very comprehensive introduction to Bharat 6G Alliance. I now invite Dr. Neeraj Mittal, Chairman, Digital Communications Commission and Secretary Telecom, to kindly deliver the keynote address. And we have Dr. Neeraj Mittal. Online, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here today with all of you, especially because today is not only a standards, milestone for all of us with this important conference being held in Bangalore, but also that it coincides with the National Engineering Day 2023 with Mr. M. Vishweswaraya, who we all hold in very proud esteem. The theme for, I think, this year's day is Engineering for a Sustainable Future. and the technologies we are aiming to actually promote all work towards that. So it is really nice that we are here for the 3GPP TSG 101 meetings from across the globe today to discuss on standards which will promote these newer technologies. Government of India recognizes the role of 3GPP in the development of globally harmonized specifications for telecom technologies, starting from 3G onwards. India's engagement with 3GPP has been done through TSDSI, which is an organizational partner of the 3GPP and the host of this event, whom I'm thankful for this invitation. And also that this meeting was brought to India. I thank the chairs of 3GPP Technical Specifications Group, Mr. Wansi Chen, Mr. Puneet Jain, Mr. Peter Smith, and of course, our dear Mr. N.G. Subramaniam, the TSDSI chairman, and Suresh, the vice chair, who spoke earlier, and all the team who has worked so hard to make this a success. I'm also happy, just as Puneet started his career in CDOT, I also started my career in CDOT, I think about a decade earlier than Puneet did. And that really, makes me nostalgic here today to be amidst all of you. As the commercial deployment of 5G is rapidly unfolding on a global scale, we are also witnessing a simultaneous leapfrogging and a transformational shift towards the 6G technologies, a frontier that holds immense promise and potential and will fulfill the aspirations we have for India and the world as a whole for a sustainable future. Department of Telecommunications and TSDSI jointly conducted an online 3GPP Release 19 awareness workshop series. This is a good sign as we will be able to absorb and meet the requirements and innovations from the largest telecom market in the world. It's also heartening to note that the recent release of the ITU WP 5D framework and the profound emphasis it places on serving the network society, both in developed and developing countries, would be mitigating the digital divide. As was pointed out, India by, I think, our Suresh, that the urban and rural areas are pretty much have similar connectivity, but there is a lot more to be done. The strategic framework aligns seamlessly with the Bharat 6G vision unveiled by our Honorable Prime Minister earlier this year, and which reaffirms our commitment to a shared vision of technological progress. The statement says, design, develop, and deploy 6G network technologies that provide ubiquitous, intelligent, and secure connectivity for a high-quality living experience for the world. It goes without saying it is based on the principles of affordability, sustainability, and ubiquity. It is aligned with our national vision of being self-reliant and making the country take its rightful place in the world as a leading manufacturer and supplier of advanced technologies. With the contribution to the development of global 5G standards, Indian companies have also developed core competencies in many areas. They have greater understanding of standards, the cycle that followed with this 3GPP, including the aspects relating to workflow and working procedures. The government has generously supported indigenous research in these domains, and this commitment to actively contribute to 3GPP and ensure that unique requirements and aspirations of India are well represented. BOT has been nurturing the standards ecosystem by various ways, including support to startups and academia, going to the global standard bodies, coordinating with relevant stakeholders, educational and research institutions, supporting TSDSI and TEC in conducting workshops, hosting of meetings of ITI in India, and providing support for hosting meetings such as one being held today. As we convene for these discussions. I hope you all have also had time to explore the rich tapestry of culture, history, and natural beauty that India has to offer. And I think a bit of sightseeing will truly enrich your mind and spirit and help you in truly coming up with standards which will make the technology adoption and growth very fast. In closing, I extend my best wishes to all of you for a fruitful and productive meeting. I hope these deliberations give insights and lead to innovations that will propel the entire world towards a technological future driven by 5G and 6G technologies. I wish you all a very safe and pleasant journey as you head back to your homes, and look forward to your deliberations and reports from this so that the government can take decisions based on them. Thanks a lot for this opportunity.
Dr. Mittal, for the very inspiring message. As a token of our gratitude to the speakers, we would like to felicitate them with a small memento. May I invite Professor Bhaskar, former chair at TSDSI, to kindly felicitate the 3GPP chairs. So, Puneet Jain. Wanshi Chen. Peter Schmidt. Thank you, Professor Bhaskar. May I invite Mr. N. Mohan Ram to please felicitate Mr. N. G. Subramaniam. May I also request Mr. Mohan Ram to please hand over the memento for Dr. Neeraj Mittal to NGS, and we'll pass it on to Dr. Mittal in Delhi. Thank you, sir. May I request Mr. Mittal to kindly come up to the stage and felicitate Suresh, our Vice Chair. Thank you, sir. With that, we come to the end of the first part of this workshop. Before we move to the second part, which is a panel discussion, may I request a group photograph of all the speakers? Can we have Dr. Mittal also, if he's still there with us, or has he left? He's left? Okay. So, yeah. Thank you, speakers. So we now move to the next part of the workshop, which is a panel discussion. This panel will be moderated by Professor Brijesh Lal, who is joining us online from IIT Delhi. Do we have Professor Lal with us now? Yeah. Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, Professor Lal, for joining us. A brief introduction to Professor Lal. Professor Brijesh is presently Professor of Electrical Engineering at the Department of Electrical Engineering in IIT Delhi. And he has earlier served as the head of the Bharati School of Telecom Technology and Management at IIT Delhi. He is also the coordinator of 2 centers of excellence, with the Airtel IIT Delhi Center of Excellence in Telecommunications and the Ericsson IIT Delhi 5G Center of Excellence. He's also the in charge of an IoT laboratory that he set up in collaboration with Samsung and the co-principal investigator of the project, building an end-to-end 5G testbed funded by Department of Telecommunications. Thank you, Professor Lal, for joining us. I'd now like to invite the panelists for this particular panel discussion. Balash Barteni, former 3GPP TSG RAN chair. Balash joined Nokia in 1998 and started to work on circuit-switched mobile switching. In 1999, he joined the research group on IMS, IP Multimedia Subsystem, and soon started to work in 3GPP standardization on IMS architecture. In 2015, Balash moved to the radio standardization group within Nokia to focus on 5G matters. In 2017, Balash was elected as chairman of the TSG RAN for a 2-year term and was re-elected for another 2-year term. Welcome, Balash. Thank you.
First seat, right?
Yeah, thank you. Professor Shomava Mukherjee from IIT Jodhpur. Shomava is currently assistant professor with the Electrical Engineering Department, IIT Jodhpur. His current research interests include substrate integrated coaxial line antennas and circuits, substrate integrated waveguide antennas, multi-frequency and broadband antennas, and chipless RFID. Shomava has just started contributing to 3GPP, and it will be nice to hear his viewpoints from that perspective. Welcome, Shomava. Subhash Mandal from HFCL. Subhash leads the R&D efforts for 5G product development at HFCL as a senior vice president. In this role, Subhash works with academia, standards development organizations, open source and technology partners. Prior to joining HFCL, Subhash served as a chief architect of Wipro's organization-wide 5G initiative from 2018 to 2021. He was recognized as a Wipro Fellow for his technical contributions. And I know Subhash is a C-dot veteran too. Welcome, Subhash. Mr. T.S. Ramu, Lekha Wireless. Ramu is the founder director at Lekha Wireless Solutions, a Bengaluru-based deep technology firm with 4G and 5G RAN products. He has experience of 26 years in wired and wireless communication technology and product development. Within Lekha, he is responsible for business development and telecom product management. His expertise includes driving innovation, starting from product design to deployment. Under his leadership, Lekha is working on a vision to develop telecom technology products for India and abroad. Welcome, Ramu. Vikram Tevatia, COAI. Vikram is the Deputy Director General at COAI. This is India's leading industry association for telecom, broadband, and digital services. He interacts extensively with the ICT industry leadership and senior officials at DOT, MIT, TRI, and other government offices for regulatory and policy matters. An active member of national industry coalitions, CII, FICCI, ASSOCHAM, TSDSI, NASSCOM, IAMI. Welcome, Vikram. And last but not the least, Dr. Vinosh James from 5GIF. Dr. Vinosh Babu James joined Qualcomm in 2011 and has served over the years in roles spanning engineering and standardization. He currently leads Qualcomm standardization engagements in India. He engages Indian and regional stakeholders on matters related to radio standardization and regulation. Vinosh is the convener of the 5G India Forum and a member of the Technology Innovation Group 6G, the Indian 6G flagship program. Thank you, Vinosh. With that, over to you, Professor Lal, for conducting the panel.
Thank you very much, Bindu. Thanks to TSI for making this happen. I hope I'm audible. So here, today we have, as you can see, a panel which is extremely distinguished, and there's a lot that we can learn from them. This session is about two things. One is to understand the steps that India has taken over the last few years to move in direction of strong contributions to 3GPP engagement and contributions. And the second thing is, what is it that we can do even better so that our contributions stand out even more? I'd like to begin this by asking the most obvious question. Why should somebody at all talk about 3GPP engagement? Why is it important? And before we get to the India context, I request Balas to please educate us on why he feels that 3GPP engagement is an important activity that lots of organizations and academic institutes of repute should participate in.
Okay, fantastic question. So, first of all, I don't believe I would need to educate all of you. I think you know very well from the last decade or so, and we were so happy to see the growing engagement from companies from India. Obviously, the main benefits you get from an engagement in a global forum like 3GPP is the economies of scale. Yes, because of the economies of scale, you might have to do some compromises, and nobody's initial proposal actually gets accepted as such. But then that's sort of the price you pay. But then the benefits that you get with the footprint, with the global footprint, the economies of scale of a global standard, I think far outweigh some of the compromises one has to make along the road. So yeah, I believe that's the key thing here, and that's also the key thing going forward with 5G Advanced and also eventually 6G.
Right. I thank you for those opening remarks. And Vikram, could you tell us a bit about the same question from the point of view of an Indian and representing a lot of Indian interest as the DDG of COI? What is it that 3GPP engagement can bring to organizations here in India?
So, Brijesh, thank you very much for this question. And, just taking the cue up from what Balash said, the fact of the matter is, we have so many international delegates, sitting in the room, and they travel every 3 months going to a different meeting. The sheer fact that they can book an Uber because go anywhere in the world, the mobile can talk, universally and book a service. So the fact is that what 3GPP does is it empowers and enables the world, which is using mobile technologies, right, and mobile devices which have become ubiquitous, to be able to talk to each other and actually get some value out of it, and not have, if you travel or move, every time you have to latch on and have a different device. I remember some time back, traveling to a country, and I had to say, hey, what is the kind of network there? Nobody has to be bothered about that. And thanks to 3GPP, and courtesy to everybody in this room, compliments to you all for all the energy and the effort and the collaboration that you've done to such a wonderful organization, 3GPP. I would take this opportunity on behalf of COI, India Friends of 3GPP, and TSDSI to thank you all for all this great work. 3GPP is invaluable.
Thank you so much. So before we move on to the questions that we want to give our opinion on and probably debate a little, I want another perspective on this question. Dr. Shumawa, who we got associated with 3GPP activities recently, and he can give us a unique perspective. The others on stage and some in the audience are veterans in a matter of speaking. Shumawa is a relative recent entrant, but he's been a strong contributor. So, Shumawa, about a year of contribution and participation, why do you feel that 3GPP engagement is important? And do you feel it's important in the first place? And then, if so, why?
Yes. Hello. So definitely, 3GPP is very important platform to work on. From different perspective, from academic perspective, I would say that this is a great platform where you can contribute towards the actual applications where industries are working. This is a great platform where we can collaborate with industries and have some fruitful solution, and we can see that yes, it is in place for commercialization, which individually working as academic perspective, yes, it is, there are ways to do so, but I believe that this is another great platform where you can do it in a much better and efficient way. And also it's a vast learning platform for us. For example, to find out that what kind of problem we should work on for next 1.5 years, we would be able to know only when we, as an academic person, involved in this kind of meetings. So yeah, for last 1 year, it has been a great learning experience for me as such, to know that what is it we should work on. As means, it may be a small part from my side as an individual, because typically academic persons work on a particular topic. So yeah, it may be small, but still uh, I had a great learning experience for last 1 year, and I will continue to do so because of that interest. And I believe all academic persons should engage uh, for this reason only, that to know and to get updated. That's important. Otherwise, whatever we are talking about is only about theory and nothing practical. So that doesn't make sense. So I believe all Indian academics should be part of. Thank you.
Thank you. So those are encouraging words. And this question, given the interest that everybody's shown, would probably everybody would have answered it as a yes. The engagement is important, and it's important for various reasons which have been brought out. The next question that we would want opinion on is the kind where people might have different opinions, because how does one participate and engage? Because there are multiple ways in which a person can participate and engage with the three GPP activities. So here I probably want to understand how the different panelists here feel about participating and engaging in 3GPP activities. So we can start with Vinosh, if that's all right. So Vinosh, how do you think one should begin participation, and if they've been participating for a little while, how should they make the participation stronger?
Thank you, Brajesh. Just trying to, it's a tricky question, by the way, right? So it doesn't clearly articulate, are you talking about the presence being felt in there, or how do you actually pick up topics, right? So maybe let me address both the aspects, right? So in terms of topics, I don't think there are any shortcuts, right? So you can either identify releases which 3GPP is going, and then you try to participate in there, right? That's the academic flavor of things, right? That there are a set of research topics, how we participate. The alternate to that is there are practical problems being faced. For example, Indian operators, they may have set of questions. I have a network, how do I monetize? That's one good question. Second thing is, I have a network, it's actually loaded now, how do I actually improve the performance, right? So these are like realistic industry-driven questions which can be addressed, and that can be like the next way to handle stuff. So depending on whether you are academic or industry-driven initiative which is actually pushing, you then try to get in, right? And then the next aspect is, are you like that financially well-established company which can actually go develop all parts of the stack? By that I mean, not just the layers, but then the complete product itself. Or am I actually developing pieces of the service and then trying to find out, what needs to be done? And depending on how you are actually doing that, your involvement strategy also changes, right? Because you then have a team where you are actually working in, or in the second case, your team is actually sitting inside another company. So you need to build those partnerships, the collaborations, and other related stuff, right? So that's one part of the one. The second question is, how do your presence need to be felt, right? The reality is, this meeting room doesn't serve that purpose. It's the lobby and the corridor that serves that purpose, right? Because inside the meeting room, you are just projecting your thoughts in black and white. That's your position, right? And as Balazs pointed out, it's not the best idea which wins. It's the compromise which actually gets you to the larger market that actually benefits, right? And those compromises are actually made in the corridor. So if you're expecting me to tell that, if you're a starter, listen to it and then you will grow, I would be lying. Honestly, you need to get into the meeting room, understand what is the work is actually happening in here, and then, persistently participate, make an impact, and then do it, right? So in this particular meeting, at least I was very thrilled that we had like more than half of our TSDSI IMs turned up. And if I may use the word, the second generation of standards engineers who are actually coming down from India, right? I am the first generation. Right? So the second generation, they have learned the trade. They are diligently getting involved, participating in email threads, getting into offline conversations, actively pursuing delegates in there, and then trying to find out, what exactly need to be done if we need to move the needle, right? So I think it was NGS who made this statement: the rubber needs to hit the road. It's already rolling, right? We still need to get a little further, but I think we are already in there. So within the 5G India Forum, we are just trying to provide a platform to ensure that this coordination happens. And then we also recently launched a program called the 6G Cooperation Group, which actually tries to bring some of these synergies to do it. So we are there, visibly seeing changes. But as I meant, you need to put the skin in the game, be in the room, participate, diligently pursue, and then you get it done.
Good. Thank you for that opinion and thoughts. Now, talking about the second generation, so we have Shomawa here, and I'll come back to you already, Shomawa. So what do you feel about things that a person should do to increase engagement and participation?
Yeah, I would say the same thing as Vinesh has pointed out, that you can be in the meeting room and try to understand which topic is going on and how it is working, and then try to interact and then try to contribute. But I would believe that there is another way which I found is also very effective, is that you, as an Indian context, you try to get involved into TSDSI first, because the company representative will also be there. So you will get an idea there, and once you have a consensus, then you come there. So then you will have a better advantage. But it may not work always that sort. Also, I would say that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So I believe that both ways we should try, and that's my understanding so far.
All right. Thank you for that thought. And something that's related to this is something that came out, wasn't said explicitly, is there is this need for collaboration. So you going outside the meeting room, talking to people, collaborating, setting collaborations up. Is this organic or inorganic? Does it need to be? So do you need somebody to actually think about this from the country perspective, or will it automatically happen as the community grows? This question is from Balash as a veteran, if he could advise.
Yeah, so you just made me remember my very first contribution back in 2001 in SA2. I thought I had the world's best contribution, and it went down in flames. I mean, I had no chance. So I think the mindset that one needs to have is the mindset of I'm open to learning, because even if you think, and as an academic, I'm sure people coming from academia are extremely knowledgeable. But 3GPP really is a platform that is a mixture of industry, technology, sometimes politics, and as you say, it's sort of the collaborative effort of listening to others, seeking out others' true opinion along the corridors. That's the learning experience one has to go through, and that takes time. So for me, it took about 2.5 years to get one contribution approved. And I'm not saying that learning, maybe I was sort of slower and dumber than most, but you really should come in with a mindset that this is for the long haul. So it's not like I have one idea, I come in, swoop in, get it approved, and then go away. You really have to commit for the long haul, and you really have to sort of understand all the different dynamics that go into cooking up standards.
Thank you. Yeah, so the thing that's coming out very clearly is the level of commitment, whereas everything requires commitment, but strong participation, engagement, and contributions to standard probably requires an even higher level of commitment. Now, moving on to in India context, there has the last few years have shown a huge improvement in the way we participate and engage. So what is it that we've already done right? And I will come later to things that we still need to do. But what is it that we've sort of fixed in the last 5 or 6 years. And I want to ask this question to Subhash to begin with.
Thank you, Professor Brajesh Lal. Good evening, everybody. I think last 5 to 6 years, a lot has happened in India in terms of creating the seed that standard is an important factor that country really needs to evolve. The first thing is that today, if you see the global experts sitting in this room, is a testimony that we really are doing something right, and the global experts are here. And then, of course, the credit goes to TSDSI, supported by the government, Department of Telecom, to be one of the 7 SDOs that 3GPP has. So, despite so many countries, there are only 7 SDOs, and India has one, right? So, I think that is the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say that has gone right is that India has a very strong academic backbone and a very strong startup ecosystem. To begin with, it started into the application IT sector, but very clearly the focus is shifting into the core technology area. We have Ramu sitting right here. We can see that there is tremendous focus on getting into complex problem solving. So I think the startup ecosystem is very key. And finally, I think what is in place is the aspiration, the technology aspiration. If you look at India's technology landscape, there are IT evolution in terms of India being the IT capital. The world outsources the IT services in India. But with the cloud, the network and IT are coming together. And it's, I think Ballas is sitting here. He has seen that the core network going from the appliances to PNF to VNF to CNF, there is a tremendous transformation. And I think India has been into the implementation for a longer period. And now there is an aspiration to say that we do not want to be the consumer of technology. We do not want to be the implementers of the technology, but we would like to create technologies. So that aspiration is key. So I think these are some of the key aspects in my mind that puts us in the right place. And then government has been an enormous enabling factor in the ecosystem to make sure that India aspiration is really realized. So I would pause there.
And just a question to continue on what you've said, Subhash, that one of the key things that came out was visibility, continuity of engagement. So any steps that have been taken in that direction already? Because I'm sure we need to take more steps. But what have we done already?
Yeah, so I think I would say that bringing the global experts in India, I think is one that such direction. And I am hoping that the global delegates had a good experience in India. And I hope it gives an impetus for them to come back again and again. So I think I would like to thank all of you for coming down all the way to host this meeting and then really bring the intimacy of 3GPP with the Indian ecosystem. So I really would like to thank that. So I think that has been a great thing. Department of Telecom has been funding for various activities, including, I think Somava talked about the enabling of the academics in terms of standard participation. I think that's a very positive direction. And I think India is evolving from, I would say, the teenagers to the maturity. We have learned through our way of doing things. So I think the adolescence as could be quite dangerous adrenaline rush in the wrong places. I think we are learning. Like I think Ballaj also talked about the best idea may not be the best idea to take forward in the 3GPP, because it is all about creating an ecosystem that is acceptable to everybody, right? And I think in terms of ecosystem that India has a great collaboration with a lot of technology providers globally, and then there is an aspiration to create a local ecosystem. So I think these are some of the things, I guess, going in the right direction.
Thank you so much. So those are valuable inputs. Asking the same question to Ramu, you'd mentioned Ramu while you were answering that. So what is your opinion vis-a-vis the same question?
Yeah. Thanks, Brajesh. So here I would like to say, as an entrepreneur, it's very important to know why I should do that, right? So that's something which is very, very critical question, which we always ask ourselves before we start on anything. So if I have to recollect as a telecom engineer, I've been in different organizations, starting from startup to big organization and starting my own firm. If you look at what is there in place, I think today we are in a very great shape as a country in terms of facilitation to companies to start with some of these long-term goals. Because if you look at, there are already other panel members mentioned, our strong academic institutions, which have invested a lot in R&D. So then we have a great talent pool who have done a lot of startups. Then we have been building communication systems for various other fields like defense or many other fields. And we have been a big market. We have a great successful operators who are actually deploying these networks the global scale. So what we are missing is our participation in forming these standards and building this product. I think we started a little late. One good point to mention here is there are multiple companies who have invested and developed 4G product, but we have been following the standard. We had absolutely no contribution, or we could not participate. But we have a fair or good understanding of building a product and going to deploy in scale. That is another good part. And also in terms of 5G, I think it's been 9 years at TSDSI. And the journey with TSDSI definitely has helped the industry, academic, everybody, where now we understand as an observer, also as a follower, like how exactly it functions, because it's an experience. Because many times I keep asking my team who participate in the 3GPP meeting, it is like one thing I keep hearing is you have to experience it. You have to be part of these meetings. You have to go through these discussions. I think that's something which has been enabled through TSDSI, which is a fantastic thing. And also to connect all these different dots, what I mentioned, the government is playing a key role, and a lot of facilitation, be it funding the startups, companies in investing in R&D, and also in terms of enabling the market access has been a challenge. So with considering all these factors, right, it's a great time for companies to get into the R&D, as well as one big challenge is, some of these contributions, the work we do, it gives return a little late. So do we have that ability to sustain? This is one area which is still a challenge, which we have to find solution for it. Because for bigger companies, mid-sized companies, it may be possible for keeping some money out of it for participation in the standard, investing in the R&D, and also participating and getting the returns from this over time. But how do we enable? That's a challenge which probably I think there's a lot of discussion which is probably will be taken ahead. So from here, the message is, it's a great time to be in telecom technology, and we will have a great time with 6G, with Bharat 6G Alliance in place. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Those are indeed very, very encouraging words. Now, having understood some of the good things that we've done, there's a lot more that needs to be done, and I'm sure a lot of things amongst them are on the anvil. So something that's come out is stronger collaboration, being fully able to leverage the capabilities of the academic institutes that we have. Government is showing interest in this area, and how do we fully leverage all of those inputs that we are getting? TSDSI is in place, one of the few SDOs that do exist worldwide. So given that all of this is in place, but there's still a reasonable distance that we need to cover. So I want to come to Vikram now and ask him, what are the few other things that we should be doing, or what are the things that we should be doing differently so that we hasten the process of becoming stronger contributors?
Thanks, Brajesh. To what Vinod said, the fundamental is you have to put money on the table. So if you have to participate every 3 months in a 3GPP meeting, and companies have to, from India, have to participate, so the companies who want a stake or want to, take their solution or their recommendation have to have the resources to be able to have a sustained participation. It's not like you went, it happened here in India. So you had, it's good, it's happening in India, lots of people participate. But then you have to, okay, the next meeting, the meeting after that, and the meeting after that, right? So that facilitation, one is earmarking funds and resources, both in terms of funding and the skilled engineers and people who have to participate. Don't move them out, have them take part. So many of the 3GPP people, like Balash is saying, 2001 and still here, I don't know, about 20 plus years. So the Indian companies who have to participate will have to put that kind of, skinware to continue to participate. And that is where the learning from such meetings for the India context, as we are saying, the work we need to do. I think I'll take this opportunity to also mention one of the things is that, much of the discussion always is 4G, then 5G, now 6G, right? The fact is, with each technology, the cost of this device keeps going up. And with the cost going up, we have this fancy word I have yet to understand, and how the digital divide needs to be bridged. But much of the work that we do is actually enhance that digital divide. So some method, I don't know how we can, get together, because for India particularly, you have 200 million people on a 2G network. And we have to decide as to what time frame we need to move 200 million people at least into a 4G network. And if the work in 3GPP, I see some work on RedCap and others, but overall, a focused work on what is it that we can do to make devices more affordable. And to that context, if some Indian, now there's a lot of manufacturing of devices in India or otherwise from the community. And this is not just an India requirement. It's like, the buzzword nowadays is the global south, right? So all the people who are not yet on a 4G network have to move to a 4G network, minimum. Of course, 5G is good to have. So that's the other challenge that comes to my mind. Back to you.
Thank you. Very interesting thoughts, those, especially the last one. It was, something that we hadn't alluded to thus far. Now coming to Subhash, there's another thing that sort of seems important here, which is collaboration. Of course, there's visibility, but there's also people getting together, and possibly organically and some degree of inorganic, forcing people to come together. So you are in a very good position to address this, because leading activities in HFCL, you've shown a lot of interest in participating with academia. So what are the challenges that still exist? How can we foster these relationships and make them grow stronger? And any other thing that you want to add, Subhash?
Yeah, so adding from what Vikram just mentioned, that see, 3GPP is solving a problem where you have to move a passenger car and a sports car together, and then make sure that the passenger cars are affordable. It can be bought by the mass. For connecting the unconnected, as an example, you need to make a very, very affordable ecosystem of products, right? How do you really do that? And I think the world is still trying to figure out how do we really address that. So in the India context, say, if certain technologies that potentially allows that, how do you really create that visibility and still push that technologies? That is something that I think India can play a role. And I think the academia can have a great role in terms of bringing the technology nuances towards that. How can I really make the technology more affordable, more sustainable? But I think just correlating from some of the meetings, this is the first time I was attending the 3GPP plenary, and I saw some of the activities sitting into the session that Puneet was chairing, and then we found that there was a situation that there was a disagreement on every single topic. And then Puneet said that, okay, let's break for early lunch. Otherwise, you can keep on disagreeing with each other, do nothing here, and then go back, everybody empty-handed, right? And then at the end of that lunch session, looks like there was everybody agreed to things and things fell in place. So the question is, if we have to create a sustainable, affordable technology, how do you really create that visibility? And it is not about just sitting in the meeting. I was listening to the SA meetings, and certain people came out very, very consistently very poised, very strong points with the substantiated by technical artifact. Like said, Ballas is sitting in this meetings for 20 years to create that impact. How do we really create that footprint from our ecosystem to make sure that we can make a mark in a technology that can bring affordability worldwide? I think that is essentially some of the things we will have to figure out.
Thank you so much. Now since we're running out of time, there was another opinion that I wanted, and I now request the panelists to give it along with their closing remarks. So the next question that I have, I would request you to take it up along with your closing remarks. Could you, for the benefit of the audience, talk of something specific and concrete by way of your engagement in 3GPP and it turned out to be useful, your organization or people you represent? How was it fruitful? So we can start with Vinosh, and you can also give your closing remarks, Vinosh, after that.
Thank you, Brajesh. I'll focus on the 3GPP part and how it actually helps the ecosystem in India and how we can actually improve that thing. I think everybody in the ecosystem has a role to play, right? People pointed out that we need to be consistent. We need to actually identify resource and then keep for it. But then, if you are a startup and then you can't do it, then the alternative will be for whoever is facilitating to bring more meetings to India. Right? So if DOT is that entity who is actually going to champion for Indian players, then consistently through TSDSI, they should be asking for more meetings to come into India, right? Which also means we need to host our delegates more promptly so they come natural. So that's one way to address that aspect. But we need to start focusing on also a lot of practical problems to solve. Understand, what are all those areas in which we can potentially innovate and make a difference, right? And maybe it's a wrong word to choose. We need to also understand our genealogy, where are our strengths, right? We are sitting in Bangalore, the software capital, of the world, if I may use the word, right? So then what are our strengths? Where can we actually build structures, which is sustainable and then bring more value to our participation? Right, so I think it's already on track. DOT is putting together plans on, how should we have policies which increase the impact of our participation. Right, I'm hopeful that COAI, TSDSI, 5GIF all working together will ensure that more of these things happen. But it's a process, and we are in that process. And I'm definitely hopeful that we will make an impact in the upcoming years. Thank you.
Right, thank you. On a lighter note, if DOT is made to host more of such things, it probably realize sending more members is cheaper than hosting a whole plenary. But that's for another time. Vikram, could you please add on what Ramu just said? Vinosh just said before we move on to Ramu.
That's true what Vinod said. So collaboration, of course, is the important part, right? Both domestically within the local, national entities. So if it's a mutually supporting, everybody brings their own energy sets, and the collective is, much more useful and will bring better outcomes. In the closing, I'd only say is that, given the geopolitical situation, the way 3GPP has been working, there's huge collaboration, there's huge mutual appreciation and mutual respect for all the people in the room. So there should, we have to be careful not to in any way undermine this great institution of the 3GPP as it has come about, and continue to ensure the reliance, the resilience, and the continuity as we go along.
Thank you. Ramu, your closing remarks, along with an example that you might want to bring to light here for the audience benefit.
Thanks for asking this question, Brajesh. So I just want to give one live example. I think our association with the TSDSI has been right from the beginning. And we also work in certain communication, like defense communication, where we have put some of our ideas and we have implemented it. So, but the association with TSDSI and lately participating in 3GPP meetings really helped us in structuring our ideas, presenting it. One live example I can give is our team is working on ISAC, the integrated sensing and communication, where actually this was an idea which is used. So now under this umbrella, we are presenting the entire topic. My team is here. So it's actually the thought ideas, concepts are currently being used by many companies, Indian industry, but we don't know how to put it as part of the global standard, right? That is something which has changed. So I think this is a great journey. I mean, TSDS has been great for this geography, and definitely we will see more companies coming forward and contributing. Initially coming as observers, probably will contribute in a big way in 6G. So thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ram. Thanks for a specific example. That usually makes people understand better. Subhash, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so I guess 3GPP is a great vehicle. We have been a beneficiary in the form of creating 3GPP specs compliant equipment that we are making. And as we start creating this equipment, we have realized that when you try to implement a standard, it takes a lot of effort to understand. So if you have been part of the creation journey, it probably speeds up, and the time to bring those equipment to the market really gets accelerated. And some specific cases, I would say that India has contributed in the NAVIC standard, right? I think that has been a great achievement, I would say, of TSDSI. And echoing the sentiment that Vinod said, that probably if we can have more 3GPP meetings in India, it will definitely accelerate the ecosystem. So look forward to more such sessions. And it's a great opportunity to be here amongst the global leaders. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Shumava,
Yeah.
a few words, please.
Yeah. So I believe that being from academic institute, the contribution actually opened up the visibility of the individual as well as the academic institution as a whole to the industry people. And I believe that the students who are working with this kind of activity, they will be semi-industry ready because they already know the things and then will be more useful. So in that way also, it's very useful for us. And I'll just comment that this hierarchy which has been built with the support of ministry, it is very efficient one. Professors like Professor Lal, Professor Ramamurthy, everyone has encouraged young people to get involved into it and then contribute. So that actually helped us to do more. And same way, I am also open to discuss. That's why when Professor Lal approached, I said, sure, why should not? So yeah, I think that more we discuss in our academic community, I believe that in future we will be seeing more of persons like me to sitting here and contributing, and India as a whole will be producing more people like the continuity. So the continuity can start from academia, and when they finish their degree and start their journey in industry, the industry will be recruiting someone who is already there for quite some time. So that's why we can contribute to the industry ready people. I believe that is that gives more visibility to the institute as well as individuals, and that's how it should help. Thank you.
Thank you for those words. And finally, moving to Balash now, an outsider's view. So the other participants are somehow part of the Indian ecosystem in any case. So could you give some closing remarks as somebody who's you right in the middle of 3GPP, but outside of the India context? What would your comments be?
Yeah, so I obviously observed from outside the sort of the rise of India in 3GPP in a way. And I think like India is such a fantastic and unique country in so many ways. But what is important for us here, it's so unique from the cellular infrastructure perspective. And the way we can best cater for that in 3GPP is if we know those unique problem statements, requirements, characteristics early in the process. So getting involved early and coming with a problem statement and set of characteristics and requirements early in the process and with an open mind for solutions, that is probably the best way to get the most out of 3GPP in terms of catering for your needs. And I've seen that. I mean, I've been involved in some of the early 6G discussions, and it's apparent to me that for 6G, there clearly is a desire for an earlier involvement than ever before. So it fills me with hope.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, all the panelists. Those were indeed encouraging words, enlightening words, and I'm sure the audience online and offline have learned a lot. Now, in the closing, what I sort of hear all of you people say is there's need for visibility, there's need for collaboration. The good thing is that TSDSI and DOT is moving from strength to strength. They are improving, increasing their contributions to India's role and the way India can participate. So, but there's an onus on them now to do even more, because this is possibly a little more than a start at this stage, with the entire 60 journey to be traversed, and more later. I think they have even more to do than they have already done, because people are now excited about it. There's a lot more initiatives. People have now learned that this is indeed something that's possible, and they know how they can leverage some of the advantages that are given to them. And on the other side, the startup ecosystem, the organizations, and the academia, we need to come together and make full use of these opportunities that the government and TSDSI and 3GPP, which is also very encouraging of other countries, giving in more participation and contributions is. So how do we make full use of this is what I feel came out of this panel discussion. I thank the panel members again, and thank you very much for those very, very useful and engaging comments. Back to you, Bindu.
Thank you, Professor Lal, and the panelists for a very invigorating and engaging panel discussion. I'll like to invite Suresh to kindly felicitate the panelists. I need a volunteer to please pass on the mementos. Just a minute. Can I have a volunteer, please, to pass on the mementos? More mementos. Sorry for the goof. So Balash first. Shomawa. Ramu. Vikram. Vinosh. Subhash had to leave early because he had to catch a train. So may I request Ramu to please accept the memento on his behalf? May I request the other Delhiite, Vikram, to please accept the memento on behalf of Professor Lal? So can we have a group photograph, please, of all the panelists? And if we can have Professor Lal. Thank you, Suresh. Thank you, panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
With that, we come to the end of the workshop. I would now like to invite, before we conclude, like to invite Mr. N. Mohan Ram, Director General TSDSI, to please come up and deliver the concluding remarks. Mr. Mohan Ram has more than 30 years of experience in research, technology development, and infrastructure deployment and operations in the domains of high-performance computing, high-speed communications, and financial technology. He is currently the Director General of TSDSI. He was earlier the Chief Executive Officer of NESL Asset Data Limited, a fintech startup company functioning as an account aggregator, non-banking finance committee regulated by the RBI. Mr. Mohan Ram was also previously the Director General CEO of Earnet India. Over to you, Mr. Mohan Ram.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As we come to the end of the workshop, I would like to say a big thank you to all of you for being here. We basically organized this event to bring together 3GPP experts and the Indian community to talk to each other and understand how to work together. We had a simple goal to share information about 3GPP and to figure out how people from India can get involved in that. I hope the discussions have been fruitful. And one important thing about today's meeting is that there are different organizations here. We have organizations part of 3GPP and others which are not part of 3GPP. So we wanted to include everyone because we believe that this will create opportunities for more people to join in and help with the 3GPP project. And our discussions today weren't just for India. It was also for the world to understand what is India's requirements and how things work here. This knowledge is vital to make 3GPP standards right for all people across the world. Many of you are 3GPP veterans, while a few others are attending the TSG meetings for the first time. It is evident from the 3GPP roadmap presented by the chairs and the panel discussion that development of standards is a kind of demands consistent participation in meetings over long time periods. It's also clear that standard development requires a skill that is quite different from the technical aspects. So in this context, TSDSI has been running several initiatives to foster a standards development ecosystem in the country, notably the standards-driven research, outreach to key segments and verticals, preparatory and debriefing workshops and global SDO meetings, handholding supportive members, and last but not the least, bringing more meetings to India. And that's what has happened now. As we wrap up, I encourage you to keep this conversation going. The ideas we have talked about today should continue to grow. The spirit of teamwork and cooperation that we have seen here should guide our work in the world of telecommunications. I'm also happy to announce that TSDSI will be hosting the TSG, the 3GPP working group meetings in May and October next year, basically the CT and SA meetings. And before we finish, I would like to remind that our connections don't have to end with this workshop. We have a social networking reception happening right after this event. It's a chance to relax, share stories, and build relationships that can help us in the future. So thank you once again. So we'll meet in the social reception. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan Rao. And with that, we officially end the workshop. Please stay back for the networking reception. And please make full use of the selfie booth that we have outside this hall. Thank you very much for being with us.